All right, a number NBA 30 for 30, 30 teams, 30 minutes. I'm solo on this one, so 15 minutes. Today, we're going to go ahead and break down the Phoenix Suns. Let me go ahead and put 15 minutes on the clock. The Phoenix Suns, it all starts and ends to me with Devin Booker. How good can he be? I thought that he was one of the more underrated players in our league. Um, he's definitely been someone who he had that 70-point game versus Boston a couple of years back. Definitely someone that feels like he's been underrated and overlooked. And now with the trade of Chris Paul, which we'll talk about in a little bit, this team is definitely someone seen that should get into the playoffs. I'm a lot higher on them than most people are. A lot of people have them barely sneaking into the playoffs, and I think they're going to be firmly in the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if they're this year's Denver from a couple of years back. This year's what team came out of nowhere? I don't know. Well, they're going to be the come out of nowhere team. That's what I think they're going to be. I think that Devin Booker is good enough, and he's going to surprise people. I think Devin Booker at the end of the season going to be in that top 10 conversation as a player. Now, once again, this is going to be the first time that there's going to be actual expectations on the Phoenix Suns. So he's not playing in these meaningless games, and I don't think anyone's ever accused him of being just a stat stuffer. But, now games are going to be on the line. You're going to be in crunch games, and there's going to be, lights and cameras on the Suns. They're going to get national TV games, and it's on him to produce. You saw his performance in the bubble. The team went undefeated in the bubble. Monty Williams, someone that is very well respected in this league. I remember he gave them that edict to, hey, let's go undefeated in the bubble and let's see what happens from there. And they did. He had that buzzer beater, I think it was versus the Clippers, and you could see no one on the Clippers could hold him or do anything with him. The guy is just skilled. He's a great passer. He's not the shooter that he was built to be. I think he's not the shooter. Not that he's a bad shooter, but this was back when people thought he was just only going to be a shooter. So they were comparing him to a Klay Thompson. But obviously he's way more skilled than that. They did this with Rubio. You insert Chris Paul, the point guard, a personal favorite of mine for a long time. Leaving Oklahoma City, going to Phoenix, which is a little bit closer to LA. I believe his family's still in LA. I know he has a lot of business ties in LA. Really close with the CEO, the current CEO of Disney. I think getting closer to home, one, is a good thing. Two, I think that this team obviously has a higher ceiling than the Oklahoma City team last year. You talk about Booker, who's the best offensive player he's probably played with since Blake Griffin. And then, excuse me, he played with Harden. But he's of that ilk, and he's shown the ability with Harden and with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander last year that he's not as ball dominant as he was, at his peak. He's willing to, acquiesce. That was the problem and with the Clippers, and it became a problem with Houston of, having a set way in which he wants to do things, which kind of which kind of chafes at, established stars. But a team like Phoenix, who doesn't have a history of winning, his, this military type of discipline that he shows and the drill sergeant that he is, it's probably going to be a good thing. You have a lot of young and personable players who haven't won anything, so he can mold them, and they can listen to him and look for him from guidance. And, he's in the perfect part of his career while, he can provide that guidance. He even understands that he can't dominate the ball like he used to because he's just not there physically. He's, I believe, 36 this year. Smaller guard. He's always played bigger, but I think this is just a perfect situation with him when you have a player like Devin Booker and he doesn't have to worry about carrying the offensive load like he did in Houston or for the Clippers or even for OKC. Even last year for OKC, in the crunch, the ball was still going to him. It doesn't have to go to him. It can go to Devin Booker. You have a young big in Deandre Ayton who showed a lot of progress in his game, especially defensively last year. And, there's no reason to believe that he's not going to progress even more. I like his touch around the rim. I still want him to play with a little bit of more nastiness and finishing. A lot of times, it's he reminds me of Patrick Ewing a lot. The way that he kind of goes about attacking the rim. And I'm not saying he's Patrick Ewing, but Patrick Ewing. For those that remember him and watched him, was his game doesn't get the silky comparisons of Hakeem's game, and I think that's part of the reason why people don't really understand his game was a lot more finesse, because you had probably the best quote unquote finesse, form, fundamental game of all time in Hakeem in the same era as him. But Ewan had that type of game too. A lot of finger rolls, jumpers, pull-up jumpers. And Ewing doesn't get the credit for it, and I think Ayton compares to that favorably. Not just because he's an Islander, but I think just game-wise, that's more of his game. But I would like to see him play with a little bit more nastiness. But obviously, he got better on the defensive end. Aaron Baines is gone now, so it's completely his show. So we'll definitely see what he turns out to be. I wouldn't be surprised if there's another leap in him. He has all the tools and all the skills to be as good as he wants to be. So we'll see. Maybe even start extending his range, start shooting from three. I love their ancillary pieces. I'm a big fan of Bridges, a big fan of Cam Johnson, a big fan of Jay Crowder. I mean, this is the ultimate, one of the ultimate 3-and-D guys when his shot was on. If his shot, if that was a sign of things to come, the way that he shot it in Miami, I think that Phoenix got a steal. And then, he's just a tough player, gritty player. 1 through 4 can guard 1 through 4 without a problem. There was Cam Johnson. There was a lot of consternation when he got drafted out of North Carolina, especially with his age. I believe he was like 22 or 23 when he got drafted. But he's a shooter, and what I've seen in the preseason from him, he has a little bit more verve to his game than even I thought. He's not scared to put it on the floor and catch it in the triple stance and give you a good jab one way and try to finish the other way. He's a solid player. So I definitely look to him to have a better season. And I wanted to talk about their rookie. Let me get his name right. I think his name is Jalen Smith. Let me pull this up right here. Yeah, Jalen Smith. So I know that a lot of the draftniks thought they should have went with Halliburton at this spot. Once again, if you heard my Kings breakdown, Halliburton is someone that's getting a lot of love from draft people and draftniks. But I like from what I've seen of Jalen Smith, he seems like a rugged player. I've talked about just previously about Deandre Ayton, and there seems to be a little bit of a lack of depth behind them. They have the kid Jones, I believe, Damian Jones. I think he played for the Warriors last year. He's a solid player, and they picked up Kaminsky. These are solid players, but I think Smith, with his athleticism, and if he extends his range, I think can be a solid third big for the team. And then you talk about Cameron Payne, who was best known previously for his dance videos with Russell Westbrook. He was a revelation in the bubble. He shot it well. He attacked. Like I mentioned with unathletic guards, smaller guards that, not that they're unathletic, but, athleticism isn't their forte. Sometimes it takes them some time to figure out the league and the speed and where they fit in. And if his play from the bubble is anywhere close to where he's going to play in the regular season, then they got one in him. He has that first round pedigree. So those minutes spelling the bench is probably going to be the most concern. Where do they get the scoring from the bench? But they have him. They re-signed Sark. He's pretty much locked into what the player that he's going to be now. But I think he's a good scoring big off the bench. Can pass a little bit, very skilled, can shoot it. And then you have Carter off the bench, was a bulldog with his defense. I mean, he was just a terror defensively in the games that I saw in the bubble. So you put all that together, I definitely think the Suns have a chance to get out the first round in the West, and that's saying something with as stacked as the West is. I really think that there's an upside to Booker and Ayton that we have not seen, and I think they could be one of the deadliest uh, guard big combos in the league. So most impactful player for them, I would definitely go Ayton. I think I've already talked about Devin Booker being in a conversation as a top 10 player, so I'm very very high on him, but I would like to see what Ayton gives them. Ayton can give them uh, be in that conversation as one of the top 6, 5 big men in the league. Then you're cooking with gas now, because you pair him with Booker, and then you have Chris Paul as your third guy. I think then the sky's the limit. So those things that I talked about, finishing more at the rim, more of a nasty streak, and then improving his defense. Those are the things I would like to see about him. So I definitely think he's going to be the most impactful player. If he can get to that point where he's in that discussion as a top 6 big, then yeah, I think that they could definitely be looking at home court advantage out in the West. I really think that they're good, and I think Booker's that good. Their most intriguing player is Cam Johnson to me. If he is someone that, like I said, has more verve to his game than I thought, that it's not just a shooter. I mean, because the kid has great size. He defends adequately, but he has great size. If he has, some juice to his game and he can score it in a multitude of different ways, not just shooting, then, once again, they're cooking with gas. And, it's going to be intriguing, the team that they start. I think you definitely have to start. You start Booker, Chris Paul, Bridges, who they put in that 4 hole. I'm guessing they probably put Crowder. As the season progresses, maybe things change, but I think Crowder. So, Johnson's going to come off the bench. He's going to be a bench scorer for them. Is he someone that can be in closing lineups? So I'm really intrigued what goes on with him. As far as predictions on what their record would be, like I said, I have them as a playoff team. I definitely have them as a team that could definitely get to one of the top 4 seeds in the West. There's something called the Phoenix, the Tucson hangover. I think they call it. They call it something. There's something for it. They used to have one of the best home court advantages in the league. I'm not sure. I believe they're one of the few teams that are allowing fans in, but I think that this area, just in general, is starved to have a winner. And, Booker is someone that's looking for more respect. Ayton is looking for more respect. I think Chris Paul is going to be rejuvenated. You have a young team that is building off the momentum that they had in the bubble. I do think that a lot of teams in the West are going to be struggling to find motivation, and particularly at the start of the season. So being a young team, hungry team, will benefit you to be able to maybe rack up wins early on in the season while teams are still getting their sea legs underneath them. So they have that great medium of not making the playoffs, but feeling like they should have and playing in the bubble. These other teams like teams out east, Cleveland's or the Kings, things of that nature. These are teams that probably have, an outlook of making the playoffs, but they weren't able to get that bubble experience. So, I think especially for the Suns, where every game was a must-win game for them, I do think this is going to propel them and have a better season. So definitely I see them as a team that can get a top 4 seed and potentially win the first round of the playoffs and get into the second round. And who knows, maybe Booker is even better than I think he is. I think the kid is really skilled. He can do it all. Pass it, he can shoot it, can attack, finish with both hands. Just has a nice feel for the game, nice touch on the game. I think, once again, to bring it back to Chris Paul, I think his influence on this team is going to be major. Just, he's been known as a hard ass. There was this Clipper article about him, about how Blake used to say, at the end, he just realized the best answer with him is I don't think it was yes dear or something. Chris Paul is known for just being a stickler for the doing things a certain way, and I think a young team like the Suns, who has a lot of players who have not won anything, a lot of players who are trying to prove themselves. I think that they'll listen to that, and it's going to be a very short marriage. I think he's only has 2 or 3 years left on his contract, and as the more as he ages out, your younger players can step up and take a lot of the burden off him. So I'm really excited to see what the Suns do this year. So that's the buzzer. 30 teams, 30 minutes. We'll go ahead and hit every NBA team in the league and watch out. I'm going to try to do as many clubhouses as possible. Any comments and concerns you have, definitely leave me a comment. If you think I'm wrong, I'll explain to you why I'm right, as always, and you're wrong, as usual. Yeah, definitely thank for anybody that's out here watching it. It's raw, but, I'm going to polish it up a little bit, and I'm going to hit every team. So definitely check me out. 30 teams, 30 minutes.